People with penises just don't understand what it's like to have a period. Hey guys, it's Sharon. As you can see, today's video is a little bit different because I am not in my room. I am in my car, and the last time I did a girl talk, I think I also did it in my car, and for some reason I just really enjoy it in my car because it feels more personal, like we're in a safe space. That is exactly what I want my car to be. So obviously I already spoiled it, but then again, you probably read the title anyways. We are having another girl talk today, and this one is a specific girl talk. Granted, mine are like usually like very specific topics, but this one is about periods and periods only. I do have another one just like this on my channel that is just answering period questions you're too afraid to ask your mom. So this is technically a part 2, but I do answer a lot of period questions in my other girl talk videos. So I do have a playlist of all those videos on my channel. If you want to binge them, definitely feel free to. And if you want to see more, definitely give us a thumbs up and let me know in the comments below. You can follow me on my Instagram and my Twitter to be in my videos just like this one. And now you can even follow me on TikTok and get more content. And of course, if you want to see more, you should definitely subscribe for more. But all that being said, let's get right into this. I'm going to answer all your questions that you have relating to periods that you're too afraid to ask anyone else in your life, so you decide to ask a stranger on the internet. And I'm like totally okay with being your internet big sis. So be it. Let's do this. When you miss it, when is the right age to think if you're pregnant or not? So that's not how it works. Just because you miss your period, it does not automatically mean that you are pregnant. The only way to get pregnant is to have sex, and of course if the man finishes inside the girl, because the way you have a baby is a sperm, which comes from the man, touches the eggs, which comes from the woman, and it creates a baby. So just because you miss your period, that doesn't mean that you're pregnant, especially if you are not having sex, or if you've never had sex, or if you haven't had sex since your last period. You can't just get pregnant. I mean, you can get like inseminated and stuff, but that's a whole different video. People say not to use tampons when it's dry down there and my flow is light. Can I still use one? Technically, if you are still bleeding, like if you are actually bleeding, you could use a tampon. There's like, I want to say 5 different sizes to tampons. I think there's like light, there's regular, there's super, and then I think there's like 2 more after super. One must be like ultra super, I don't know, something like that. There are different sizes of tampons for a reason, because your flow isn't always heavy. It could be light. As long as you are not sticking a dry tampon into a not bleeding dry vagina, it won't be that painful. And also, you never know until you try. I know a lot of girls use perfumes and stuff to cover up the smell of blood, but my question is there any point of doing that? Like, can someone smell your period? For the most part, it's all really like in your head. Your period blood itself doesn't really have a smell. Sometimes if there's a lot, it might give off that metal smell that you usually smell from blood in general. But for the most part, that smell, like the little fishy smell, is really just sweat and bacteria mixing in down there and making it stink. That is why I always tell you guys, hey, when you're on your period, don't wear tight clothing. Let your hoo-ha breathe a little bit, because then all that tight clothing is really locking in the sweat and really locking in the bacteria, and it's mixing together to create that smell. Now, when it comes to spraying perfume to get rid of this smell, I think about my PE coach from middle school always telling us, ladies, it's not gonna work. Do not mix your perfume and your period stink, because it will just create an even worse stink, which is essentially true. Like a period stink and then this floral garden stink, it just smells like a floral garden stink that had a period, if that makes sense. So honestly, the best way to just get rid of the smell is try to freshen up as much as you can, like use flushable wipes, for example, or also just wear loose clothing and let it breathe. What is something you wish you had known when you first got your period? I want to say the most important and biggest thing I wish I knew when I got my period is that it's not as taboo as people make it out to be. When I was younger, I was so afraid to talk about my period and so embarrassed by a period. And actually, I mean, I do know why. It's because no one really talks about them when you're young or when you're first getting your period, which is really messed up, because periods are a part of life. Like, I can't control a period. A person with a vagina can't say they want a period or they don't want a period. Periods just happen, and they are something that will always happen and will always continue to happen. So I think if I were to know anything when I first got my period, it's, sis, don't be ashamed, embrace it and accept it and learn more about it and talk more about it. So that's what I'm trying to do to y'all and put in y'all's heads. So I love swimming, but I am too afraid to use a tampon. What should I do? So here's the thing. If you want to go swimming, but you're terrified of tampons, honestly, there's no need to be terrified of a tampon. But okay, let's say you want to look at other options. There are actually period swimwear bottoms. Just like there's period underwear, there's also period bikini bottoms or one-piece swimsuits. So there's one option. The second option, if you are bleeding very lightly, if your flow is very light in general, hear me out, you can go swimming on your period and without leaking in the water, because the water does temporarily like stop your flow. That's the pressure of your vagina being submerged underwater. The flow will stop. But if you cough or sneeze, a little might come out, but also it'll dissolve in the water. That's no big deal, especially in a pool, because they're meant to clean stuff out like that. But that's a whole side note. Just know the second you come out of water though, your flow is back to normal because it's not being pressured anymore. So there's a second option. Your third option, there are also menstrual disc and menstrual cups, which honestly the idea is kind of the same as a tampon. You are still sticking something in downstairs, but the difference is between a disc and a cup, it's really just collecting blood versus absorbing the blood like a tampon would. Is it normal that weird red clumps come out? I'm assuming these red clumps are blood clots, and yes, they are normal. I remember seeing my first blood clot and being like, oh my god, I'm dying, but they're actually very, very normal. So the reason you might see a blood clot is because you are bleeding too much for your body to keep up with. So that's just your uterus literally shedding its lining, but it's so much that your body is slower than what's shedding, and your blood just kind of clumps up together, and then you get a period clot. At least that's from my understanding. I guess this is the part where I mentioned, by the way, I am not a doctor. Take everything I say very lightly. Think of it as just like advice, not actual professionally said things. I don't know what the terminology is, but I hope you get what I'm saying. Is it safe to sleep with tampons in? So the answer to this is yes and no, and the reason I say that is because you shouldn't sleep with a tampon in, but also if you're taking a nap, if it's a short nap, you definitely can. You shouldn't keep a tampon in for longer than I think 8 hours is max. So if you know you're gonna sleep less than 8 hours, then sure, go to town. It also depends on the size of your tampon and how much you're bleeding. For the most part, you can technically sleep with the tampon in, nothing will happen, but just know if you keep it in for a longer amount of times, then that is putting you at more risk of toxic shock syndrome, which is TSS, and that is caused by bacteria just collecting down there. So the shorter the better, if that makes sense. Are there any signs that you are close to getting your first period? So I actually have a whole video on signs that your first period is coming, and I go way more in depth in that video, so I definitely recommend checking that out. Off the top of my head, your signs are you get discharge, I want to say like a year, year and a half, maybe even 2 years before getting your period. Your boobs start to grow, you start getting acne. I think you go through like kind of a growth spurt in general. It's little things like that, but that video definitely goes more in depth into it, so I definitely recommend watching that one. Do periods automatically make you fertile? Technically, yes. Once you have your period, that means you are able to get pregnant. Now, of course, there are some people out there with infertility issues, but that's a whole nother ballpark, you know. But for the most part, once you get your period, that means you are a woman or whatever you identify as, and you can start having babies. So use protection if you don't want those babies. Is it normal to miss a period? I have said this so many times in so many videos. It is normal for periods to not be normal. If you miss a period, it doesn't automatically mean that you're pregnant. You know, there has to be sex involved for that. It could be a whole lot of other things. Like, for example, if you exercise or you play sports, that definitely goes into play with your period and can mess it up a little bit. If you are stressed out, if you're changing your diet, if you're losing a lot of weight, if you're gaining a lot of weight, there's just so many different things like that that can affect your period. So I'd say if you're missing a period, don't completely freak out yet, especially if you're not having sex. If you're starting to feel a little bit concerned, it never hurts to go see a doctor like a gyno and find out what it could be. I have a single dad and he says girl products are too expensive and I can just use toilet paper. What are some cheap girl products you recommend? Listen, I understand the struggle of your dad, and I also understand that people with penises just don't understand what it's like to have a period. I get that and I understand that. The most we can do is educate them and say, Dad, no, I cannot just use toilet paper. That's not how it works. So I actually, my first TikTok that I ever posted, I think is a great fit for this. So it was about getting an affordable emergency period kit from the dollar store. I went to the Dollar Tree in specific. They do sell pads, panty liners, and tampons. Those are a great option. They do come in a little bit smaller packs, I'm not gonna lie. The largest pack of a tampon I saw was maybe 6 tampons, and the largest for pads I saw, I think were maybe 3 to 6, somewhere along that lines too. So that technically will add up after time because it's in small packagings, but hey, it's something to think about, it's something to consider. The other option are reusable pads, which yes, are a thing. They are cloth pads that you like literally clip on and attach and you can wash and you can use. You just pay those once. You don't have to keep buying pads. You just have those and wash them when need be. easy. You can also buy period underwear, which you can also wash. I mean, period underwear might sound expensive at first, but think about how much money you're saving from not buying pads like every month. So that's another option. There is also a menstrual cup or menstrual disc. I'm not entirely sure how the discs work, but I know the cups you can use often, and you can use the same cup multiple times. You just boil them or like even pop them in the microwave for a minute in the little case they come in, and that's how you sanitize them and clean them. So either use reusable products or check out affordable stores. It's not the end of the world, and there are definitely options out there. Is it possible to make your period shorter? I have heard that there are ways to make your period shorter. I think the one I've seen most from you guys is drinking a lot of water, which honestly, you should be drinking a lot of water in general when you're on your period, because we're losing a lot of blood. It is important to stay very hydrated. I'm actually not sure. I'm very curious. I pulled up a list, and according to the internet, these are some options. Exercise, which I've heard about. Having sex, I've also heard about. Choosing an alternative to a tampon, which is interesting. I didn't know that tampons elongate your period or make them not be as short. I don't know. So that's something that's interesting to hear. Birth control, definitely. Reaching and maintaining a healthy body weight. Nutritional supplements such as zinc and vitamin B6. I also saw vitamin C. Staying hydrated, so drinking water. Trying herbal remedies and receiving shots of progestin. I have no idea what that is, but I don't really know, and I feel like this is a question for the gyno. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, this one time I went to my gyno and I was like, sis, I have been bleeding for so long. I'm also on birth control and I was bleeding for like a month straight, and I'm like, I want to stop bleeding. And she just gave me this little prescription. It was 3 pills. I took 1 a day and it stopped my period. That is definitely something you might want to ask your gyno, not a stranger in the internet. Drink a lot of water and find out and let us know. Is it normal to get your period a week and a half early after you just started the pill? It is very normal for your period to be a little wonky and all over the place when you get put on birth control. It does take a while for your body to get used to that birth control, so that's really just your body trying to accommodate and get used to and understand that you are now on birth control. So yes, that is very normal. Can you poop or pee with a tampon in? So fun fact, you have 3 holes in your lower body. One is your butt, you have your pee hole, which is right under your clitoris, and then you have your vagina hole, which is where the tampon goes in. So since the tampon goes into the actual vagina, you don't have to worry about pee coming out and pee pushing the tampon out, because the pee comes out of the hole above the vagina. How long should I leave a pad or panty liner on for? So there isn't like a set amount of time I'm gonna tell you, only because every flow and every body is different. If you have a very heavy flow, you might not want to keep a pad on that long, because then you're just sitting in that blood-filled pad, and you know, that's never good. That's bacteria, that's icky, that's gross. So it really just depends how long you have. So it really just depends how heavy your flow is and how much you're bleeding. And I think there's a recommendation on different pad like packaging. Like some overnight pads, for example, those can be used for up to like 10 or 11 hours. So it really also just depends what type of pad you're using too. If it's a thinner pad, you might not want to keep it on that long if you bleed a lot. If it's an overnight pad, you know, you can keep it up for like up to 10, 11 hours. Just, it really is a thing that you kind of learn as you go and figure out as you go, because again, every body, every flow is different. How do you use a little garbage bag in the side of the school washroom walls? Like, do you leave the wrapper in the pad in the paper bags? Do you take the bag out and put it in the trash? If I use a tampon, I will take my tampon out of the little packaging, I will insert my tampon, and if I have an applicator, I put the applicator back in that same packaging, because sometimes the applicator can be a bit bloody. I toss it in that little trash bin. Now, if it's a pad, I put everything in that trash bin too. Now, for example, if you're taking out a dirty, used, bloody tampon, what I usually do is I grab some toilet paper and I wrap it up. My biggest nightmare is the janitor emptying that out and like a bloody tampon falling and being a mess for them. I'll wrap up my dirty tampon and put it in the trash bin like that. But yeah, I put every period product related thing in that same trash can. Can you get toxic shock syndrome from a menstrual cup? Like I mentioned before, menstrual cups actually just collect blood versus absorbing the blood. So you're not really at risk of getting TSS as much as you would be for a tampon, because a tampon is absorbing that blood. I don't want you to think, oh my god, if I wear a tampon, I'm gonna get TSS. TSS is very rare. It's not impossible, but it's just very rare. So don't let that frighten you away from a tampon. But for the most part, it is a bacterial infection that is associated with tampons. How do you easily get rid of stains? So honestly, for me, I've never really had an issue where I couldn't get a stain out. I will literally just use cold water, hand soap, bath soap, whatever soap I have on hand, and just scrub and scrub until it comes out, and it usually works out for me. I have seen hacks of using cold water and using hydrogen peroxide to get it out as well. I want to say my biggest tip is the sooner you can get it out, the better, because the more you let that blood soak in there, the harder it's going to be to get out. Can your period blood be brown. Yes, this is normal. This is especially normal in discharge too. If you see some little brown stuff coming out of you, do not freak out. That is just old blood. When you first see it, when I first saw it, you're like, oh my God, am I peeing poop right now? Is this poop liquid? No, sis, it is actually just old blood that was a little late to the exiting the vagina party, but she's out now. It's all good. Don't freak out. Can you wear a tampon in the shower? Yes, you can. If you can wear a tampon in the pool, for example, you can shower with a tampon and nothing's gonna happen. Nothing's gonna go wrong. It's inside you. It's not outside of you. Like, you can't wear a pad in a pool because pads soak up water. They soak up liquid, so it will soak up the pool water, but I mean, the tampon's inside you. You'll be fine. Is it weird to wear pads and only pads? My friends think it's weird. I think it's weird that your friends think it's weird because it is your body and it is your choice. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks about what you are doing with your own body, especially when it comes to your period. You can use whatever period products make you comfortable and make you happy because it is your vagina that you're bleeding out of, not your friend's vagina. So your friends can exit the building kindly. Thank you very much. If you want to wear only pads, go for it. If you're a tampon girl, do that. Reusable menstrual cups, disc, whatever. Do whatever makes you and your body happy, and what anyone else thinks is irrelevant, and I'm not sorry. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give us a thumbs up and let me know in the comments below. If you have your own period questions that I did not answer, comment them down and I will try my best to answer as many as I can. If you happen to know the answer to these questions, also help each other out. We love that. We are here for it. Now, shout of the week goes to Susan. Thank you so much. If you'd like to be shout of the week, just follow me on my Instagram and stay active. I do have a series on my Instagram that's a little bit like this. It's called Tea Times with Just Sharon, where every single Friday I hop on my stories and I answer questions in general that you're too afraid to ask anyone. So I answer them and then I post them on my IGTV for you to binge after. So you can definitely go check out the old ones on there. But also, I do make a lot of period videos in general, and I have a whole playlist literally called All About Periods. You can definitely go check that out. And the rest of my girl talks as well. Like, your girl has a lot of easily bingeable content. But all that being said, if you guys do want to see more, definitely subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.